Today's presenter is Theresa Liewer, and she is the past president of the Iowa Genealogical Society. She teaches classes for them on various topics and moderates monthly meetings of the Irish and DNA special interest groups. Like many other genealogists, she is slightly obsessed and loves introducing others to the joy of family history. I think she is with a like-minded crowd tonight. So Theresa, if you'd like to share your screen and unmute, we'll get started.
Okay, good evening. I think you're all in evening share times at this point. I am delighted to be here to help you in your search for more information about your Iowa roots. I was watching the chat and it's like your family is from all 99 counties, I swear, as we go through here. Here we have two of our more famous Iowans immortalized by Grant Wood. Perhaps some of you can even claim kinship with these people. Even if you can't, by the time we're finished, hopefully you will have more resources that will complete the picture of your Iowa family as we go through there. He's an Iowa dentist, in case you're wondering, and his sister. But we go from there. Okay, now. So today's topics, what we're going to do is we'll do a very quick overview of Iowa. We'll work at the state census records and the vital records, probably in depth. Then I'm going to go through some really great military records, some free on is great. And then I'm going to do a blatant commercial for the Iowa Genealogical Society. Allison told me I could. Okay, so here's a map of Iowa. It was acquired as part of the Louisiana Purchase. I was listening to other presenters Philadelphia or from Pennsylvania and Virginia, and I'm like, oh my Lord, they've got 200 years more of records to work with. Ours is relatively soon. We spent time being part of various territories, first Missouri, then Michigan, then Wisconsin. We became our own territory in 38, and we became a state in 1846. We are bordered on the west by the Missouri River and on the east by the Mississippi River. And the Mississippi River is really where all the early settlements came from. I was obviously primarily agricultural. It was unbroken prairie when the European settlers came. Contrary to popular opinion, it is not flat. There are 18,000 people riding bicycles this week from the Missouri River to the Mississippi River, and they will be glad to tell you it is not flat. Okay, our settlement, the earliest European occupants were French trappers, traders, and lead miners. The lead mining along the Mississippi River, in the kind of in that corner where Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin come together. And quite frankly, because of the lead mines, we actually had a Revolutionary War. I'm not sure if we'll call it a battle, but an event where the English came and occupied the lead mines because they were obviously very important in terms of supplying ammunition, lead for ammunition, and they were planning on going down the Mississippi to capture St. Louis. But we have our own Iowa Paul Revere, Jean-Marie Cardinal, who went down the Mississippi and warned St. Louis that the British are coming, the British are coming. Okay, the lands were basically occupied by the Sauk and the Squaxin native tribes. Other tribes had been moved here from Illinois and Wisconsin, the Winnebago, Ho-Chunk, the Potawatomi. But as time went on through various means, the land was opened up gradually across Iowa. So really you're going to see in 1833 is when there's the first Euro-American settlement that was allowed. Our early migration came from Illinois, Missouri, Indiana, Ohio. Some came from further east. We do have a few Yankees that showed up as we went through there. Our foreign immigration primarily came from Germany and Ireland after the Irish famine, the German 1848, some things that happened there. But we still had we had some early immigrant clusters that still exist. We have a couple of Dutch communities, a couple of Norwegians, the Czech community, Danish. Surprisingly, Luckensburgers, we have two of those. We had a Welsh community down in southeast Iowa at the mines. So we are a mix of just about anything you're going to find as we go through here. Iowa was a federal land state. It was surveyed as range township section. When I look at my abstract, the first entry on an Iowa abstract is from the U.S. government to the state of Iowa or to some other person. Most of the land in Iowa was purchased under the Land Act of 1820. All right, it was actually purchased. There was some land acquired as military bounty land. So you can always find that kind of records. There was very little land left by the time the Homestead Act of 1862 was passed. So there are some minor acquisitions under that act, but not a lot. We have 99 counties. Records are primarily kept on the county records, on the county level, the ones that you're most interested in. Certain records, for example, vital records, are passed on to the state, but the other ones stay on the county level. The really nice thing is, beginning in the 1970s and still ongoing, is that the State Historical Society of Iowa, which is the state library, and the state archives began working with FamilySearch. When we first started, it was the Utah Genealogical Society, to film, and now they use digital cameras to record records from all 99 counties, as well as some state records. So what you're going to find within the catalog are land records for each county, probate records, naturalizations, obviously vital records, some court records, all sorts of things. In the old days, we used to order those out on microfilm. Now they are scanned and most of them have been scanned and digitized and are available online. Oftentimes, unfortunately, they are restricted. You have to go to a local family history center, which is a local LDS church, or an affiliate library. So always check to see, you can go onto the FamilySearch website to see where the closest affiliate land library might be. The Iowa Genealogical Society started that years ago, and I know Allen County is, as we go through there. So people actually come in and use our library to see things, okay? So the first one I'm going to do a deep dive into is the state census records of Iowa, and I'm going to talk about the statewide mid-decade ones. They started in 36, we did 56, then all of a sudden it's 85, 95, 05, 15, and 25. A lot of states have done these. I understand that. I'm from Kansas, and so Kansas has them. But we have some unique questions on ours, which we really, really like to highlight. With the exception of 1836, they are an every name census. There are no surviving 1865 and 75 census records. That was basically how it was administered, and none was taken after 1825. The one thing to remember is that Ancestry and FamilySearch has these, but neither Ancestry nor FamilySearch have an absolutely complete set of those mid-decade census records. So FamilySearch is missing 1856, Ancestry is missing 1905. Ancestry is found in a collection titled Iowa State Census Collection 1836 to 1925. And I will comment here now, whenever I cite a collection, you'll see that in the handout, as well as any time I cite a website, it's in the handout. So you don't have to furiously scribble these things down. So Ancestry, we go into that collection. FamilySearch, it's listed in the Iowa records. The handout has a list of each census, where it can be found, and how complete a collection is on these various websites. One of the problems is when we look at some of these, they have, we can't read the headings of the columns based on how they were imaged. Sometimes they're very dark, sometimes they're small. The Iowa Gen website has templates for each of these state census records, so that you can go in and figure out what column 15 is or column Q is, and that will help you understand what the response is, okay? Ancestry's collection, as I said, is under Iowa State Census Collection 1836 to 1925. It's just a normal Ancestry search. On the right side, you can see you can actually browse this. So they have a list of all the years that they have, and this includes some other special ones. So you can choose your year, and then if you, whatever year you choose, then you will get a drop down that will show you any county or township or location that is included in that year. So if you want to just browse them, and sometimes you do that because you know your family's there and you can't find them, and maybe the indexing wasn't quite as good as it should be. So we kind of go through that. So you can do so, but it's just a normal census. It's just a normal search. Iowa records, FamilySearch, you'll just see that they are listed separately, 85, 95. So you can see they've been online for quite some time. So we've got an anniversary coming up. So we go through there, okay? Now this is the first census of Iowa from 1836. We actually weren't quite yet a territory. I'm pointing it out for two reasons. One, this is the original counties of Dubuque and Des Moines, which is misspelled, even though it's an official record. In case you didn't know, Des Moines is 2 words and there's an S on each end of each word. We do not pronounce the S, but they are there. Iowa was, when it was formed, actually had 2 counties. Dubuque was the northern half and Des Moines was the southern half, those counties. The other thing I want to point out to you is Des Moines County is on the far eastern edge of Iowa along the Mississippi River. The city of Des Moines is half a state away in the center of Iowa in Polk County. We have multiple instances of where you have a county by a name and a town by a name, and they are nowhere near each other. So Jefferson's not in Jefferson County, Greene's not in Greene County, Keokuk's not in Keokuk County. So you need to be aware of that when you're looking at records and make sure that you're distinguishing whether this is a county or a town. And then when you actually do your own record keeping and you're putting it into your database or whatever, is in Iowa, if we do a lot of research, we almost always append the word county after the county name so that we know that that's what we're talking about rather than a town. So this is unfortunately, it's not unfortunate. Hey, it's 1836. We're far ahead of Iowa of a lot of other places, but it isn't every name. It's not in every name. It's the state. What they've done is they've just done the head of households. Okay. But some of the questions they ask are really interesting. Number 9, how many years have you lived in the state? So that helps a bit. Number 12, are you a native voter? That's almost all white males. Number 13, are you a naturalized voter? So if you're foreign born, they're asking if you're naturalized. And number 14, are you an alien? You are not, this is a great way to narrow down the window of when your family, your head of household probably went through the naturalization process. By 1856, we're going to know what's going on as we go through here. The other thing is number 20 talks about being an owner of land. Unfortunately, oftentimes, I don't think the census record taker always filled out these forms completely. We don't always get that. And then we go through the agricultural statistics. For those of you that do federal census records, you've seen these before. This is a wonderful, wonderful window into the farming life of your ancestor in 1856. In 1885, our census asked some questions, and one of the things they were most obviously eager about, because they put it at the very beginning, is what is your residence? So here's Gustav, and if it's a rural residence, they give the section, range, and township number, and then the legal description. So Gustav lives in the northwest quarter of the northwest quarter of section 28 of township 78, range 28. All right, this can give you a great clue as to where you want to go if you want to get into the land records. If you lived in the city, they actually gave you the addresses. So again, you can pinpoint where your family might have been at a particular time. Okay. They again asked citizenship questions in 1885. Are you entitled to vote? That's column P. Q, aliens who have taken out their first papers. And R is aliens who have not taken out their first papers. So again, we're now narrowing, when did your family actually go through the naturalization process? All right. If you're born in Iowa, they asked you what the county name was. If you were not born in Iowa, they moved you over a column. You put the state and you put the foreign county. The problem is when they bound these, they did some tight binding and you lose the county name. Sometimes you get the last few letters of it, and you can figure out what the county is. If not, contact the state archives. It's my understanding they are willing to pull out the original records and give you the name if it's really important that you figure out what county your family was born in. Okay. 1895, we asked a question, and this is kind of interesting. Iowa became very interested in religious affiliation. So starting in 1895, they asked your religious beliefs. The federal government never did this. So this family is a Methodist Episcopalian. We get the same questions here. Are you entitled to vote in general election? So that means you're 19. In number 19. In column 23, foreigners not naturalized. They asked for births in 1894, so you'll see a name and then you'll have a check mark there. And then they have for deaths in 1894. So I have seen where you have a name in there and that column is checked. So obviously somebody who's no longer living has made it into the 1895 census, which is nice. And now they're starting to ask about military experiences. So we have they're asking information if you're in the War of the Rebellion, which is we now call the Civil War, and the soldiers in the Mexican War. So again, take this information, run with it, go into other records if you can. Okay. 1905, they switched to 1 card per person. Makes it a little more difficult because we'd like to know who's all in the household. But here we have card number 165, Elia, I think her name, or Elia Donlan up in Sheldon. She was born in Canada, parents born in Canada and Ireland. She's been in the US 20 years, all right, down at the bottom there. But she's only been in Iowa 17. Now we have a migration pattern that you're going to have to go spend some time with that. She is widowed. Got some information there. And if she was male, again, they're asking for military service. So we're now getting the Spanish-American War information as we go through there. Ancestry does not have the 1905 census, but what they do is they have the equivalent of an inventory for each part of the census, and they list by card number. So if we go down and there's number 165 and there's Elia Donlan, then we have Maggie, Katie, EJ, Thomas, and John, and you notice their card numbers are in sequence. So this is a way that sometimes you can put together the household and find out who. And so I don't know if the next fellow is in that household, but we might want to go back and look at his card and try to get a figure as we go through there. So that's our problem with 1905, but it works. 1915, we did the same thing. If you notice, the name is Theresa Liewer. That's my husband's grandmother. She has been here 33 years. If foreign born, are you naturalized? She was not foreign born. We are now asking the question about church affiliation. She is Catholic. If you're from Carroll County, you were German, A, and B, you were Catholic. That's the way it was. So we get that in 1915. 1925 is the gem of all census records. Unbelievable. So here we have 85-year-old Anton Krogmeyer. Now, this is a 3-page census, and I've had people come up to me afterwards and say, I don't understand. You told me I should find this, but I just don't see it. Well, it's because it's on page 2. So you need to be clicking on the little arrow that takes you to the next page, So Anton's 85. He's the head of the household. We've got some sons as we go through there. But if I go to page 2, this is the jackpot. So we have Anton. Where is he born? He is born in Germany. What is his father's name? His father is Stefan Krogmeyer, born in Germany. If the parent is still alive, we get an age for them. Okay, but his is blank, and that's to be expected with an 85-year-old. You don't expect his father to be surviving. And then his mother's maiden name. So we have, I think it's Elizabeth Helling. If we blow it up, we can be sure. Also born in Germany. No age given, so she is no longer living. And then they say, where were these parents married? Now, you can see there's a little problem here. It says that Stefan and Elizabeth were married in Iowa, but Anton's born in Germany. I have the feeling that's not a response that is correct. So as always, you need to take those census answers with a grain of salt as we go through there. Page 3 has more information about military service, occupation in agriculture, manufacturing. What church are you affiliated with? Sometimes it's very specific. Sometimes it just says Christian or Protestant. So that's the 1925 census. We are so fortunate to have that. It's just wonderful. Okay. Now we have some special ones that were taken odd years. It was like, do we have enough people to be a state? Do we have enough people to create a new county? So they'll be very specific. It might be 1 or 2 counties. It might be just a city as we go through there. They are confined to the 1800s. We don't have them anymore. And what I have done is I have given you on your handout the list of all of them so that you can find them. In Ancestry, they are again in that collection called State Census Records. They are in FamilySearch, but they are not indexed. You have to go through the catalog, and I'm going to tell you that it's probably easiest if you have access to Ancestry to do it that way. Okay. So here's my handout. So if you look and you see that in Fayette County, the town of Old did one in 1896. It's in every name, and it says 1 and 3 after that. Well, number 1 means that it's available on Ancestry's collection, and number 3, it's available on FamilySearch. Do a search in the catalog, put in Old and you'll see it, but it's not been indexed. Here's a Mason City one. 1881 starts with number 1 and goes through 2,523. Evidently, they had some special status they wanted to be. And I had already picked this one out, and I'm just smiling about it because last night Mason City had an extra 18,000 people because that was a stopover for the RAGBRAI bike ride across Iowa. So that's our census records. They're a great resource. I tell people that you should find your family in every census that's available. You know, people have a tendency to go for the federal ones, but if you're in Iowa, look for those Iowa ones. Now we're going to do the vital records, which I have to admit are somewhat confusing to people, and you'll see why, but hopefully this will get you through this. But my whole thing is, remember this date, July 1st, 1880. There is no provision in Iowa law for birth or death records prior to this date. So I can't tell you how many people have said, oh, I'm looking for a death record for somebody in 1865. There is no death record prior to 1880. Okay, and technically no births, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, the keepers of the vital records, they are currently recorded first on the county level and then sent to the state registrar, the Bureau of Health Statistics. The county recorder is responsible for the creation of the records. For a very short period, for some reason, the legislature got involved. We don't like the legislature to get involved in these kind of records. They decided for 2 years, we're going to have the township keep the records rather than the county. That did not work well. Okay, FamilySearch has filmed all of the vital records from all 99 counties from the earliest date, and then they stopped at various dates. Could go from the 1910s to the 1940s, whenever the county recorder kind of said, or a county clerk of court at that time, stop. Okay, the Ancestry has the databases using that FamilySearch information, but that's our county records as we go through there. Okay, now how can you access these? Now, in theory, records at the county level in the county recorder's office are open to public inspection no matter when the event took place. So theoretically, you could go in and see last week's purse. I think you might get some pushback about that. The county recorders can issue non-certified copies of vital records to the public. So if you're looking for something that's not on the database anywhere, but let's say it's in 1950 something, you can get a non-certified copy of that record. And they determine the cost. In Polk County, they charge you $5. The records at the state level are closed for 50 or 75 years, depending on which kind of record is. So we have kind of a split personality here, and it drives the state nuts that you can go into the county and get it. But they've tried to close it, and we fought that battle and won. So after 50 and 75 years, the non-certified copies are available through the state archives. They are turned over to the state archives. The archives has made these records available for digitizing by the FamilySearch. So that's really wonderful. And so we're kind of like, you know, the horses left the barn. State's not going to be able to do anything about that. They've tried to close them. That's not going to happen. Okay. So let's talk about the different ones. Marriage records. Marriage records began as soon as a county was created, and compliance was very, very strong. Almost everybody went in and recorded that marriage. And so you're going to find them on the county record, 1830s, 1840s. Very early records may not have been kept in a separate book. They could be intermixed with other court records, but generally, almost immediately, they started a marriage book. Information became a lot more detailed, but content, it was up to the county clerk to decide what to put in there. And then here's that July 1st, 1880 date. The state dictated the information to be collected, and in marriage records, you now get the parents' names, including the mother's maiden name, the bride and groom's birthplaces, which is this the first, second, third, fourth, whatever marriage, all sorts of information. So you really want your family to hang in there and not get married until after July 1st of 1880. And then also beginning in July 1st of 1880, the state was sent a copy of that marriage record. So the state now has copies, if anything, after that. But the state, I can't say this more firmly, and then the state does not have any marriage records prior to 1880. Those are strictly on a county level. So we've got this bifurcation that you're going to have to think through as we go through there. So here's a Polk County. This is a typical Polk County record, 1847. The lady and the gentleman gave me the ages, went from there. They got married. 1888. We now have a register with all sorts of information. I blew up a little bit of it. So here we have Peter, Alva Skinner, living in Dallas County, 29, on his next birthday, not how old he is now, but how old will he be on his next birthday. Born in Wapello County, Iowa. His father's John H. Skinner. His mother is Susan Rush. It's his first marriage. He's marrying Eldora, and this is not right. It says Eldora Skinner. I don't think that's right. She's 19. She's white. Her father is Peter Hardison. So I have the feeling the Clerk of Court got this wrong again. I think he got going a little too fast, and he put her married name in rather than her maiden name. Her mother is Elizabeth J. Miller. It's her first marriage, married at the bride's house. And we have the witnesses. I don't see the officiant's name on there for some reason. I would assume that somebody oversaw that one. Could be maybe James Miller. I have no idea. But this is the kind of information you get starting July 1st, 1880. Don't you wish everybody did this? All right. Then by 1924, we're going into what you're used to, which is instead of the register, it's an individual certificate, but it's all the same information that you're going to find. Okay. So where are we going to do this? Now, the online copies of the county marriage records are in FamilySearch. So I go in, I do search, drop down records, click Iowa, and then we go into they were abstracted from the microfilm. You can search by family, parents' names, maiden names, anything. This transcribed information is available to everyone. The image sometimes you cannot see unless you go to the local LDS Family History Center or an affiliate library. But for some county, the records can be viewed at home. I do not understand. And then Ancestry.com has these same things. They're based on the FamilySearch database. Again, transcribed information, no images. And I always like to see the image. And then they are found in their collection. It says select marriage index 1758 to 1996. I'm going to tell you that range of years is not right. We are not going to have marriages in 1758 in that collection. Okay, so those are the online copies. So if I go into FamilySearch, this is what I get. I see the Freddie Krueger, yes, married Sophia Margareta Schindler in 1865 in Clayton County, Iowa. And then they tell me I have to I can't see the images unless I go somewhere else to see them. Ancestry has the same collection under U.S. marriage records. Okay. These are the county records. Okay, the death records. Oh, wait a minute, I missed something. Let's go back here. Don't tell me I eliminated something here. These are not county marriage. I apologize. Somehow I've messed this up. The state marriage records are on Ancestry.com, and that's what this is. And they are in the Iowa U.S. marriage records 1880 to 1945. And I have this right, I know, in your handout. So if you were to go in there, you can actually see the original marriage records from 1880 to 1945. Search them on Ancestry, and it's the state records. This is, I apologize for this. I have gone through this, I don't know how many times, and somehow I missed the fact that I had that wrong. Okay. Death records. Again, no provision in Iowa law prior to July 1st, 1880. The state has a copy of all those records because they started in 1880. Compliance is really spotty until about World War I. So if you've got somebody dying in the 1880s, 1890s, it's a woman or a child, there's a good chance you won't find a death record, but you need to look. Death records are open after 50 years on the state level, and the county records, non-certified, are open immediately. The county records are on FamilySearch, and the state death records are on Ancestry, and they go from 1880 to 1904. And remember, 1904 is when we get that kind of screw up at the township. And then they pick them up to 21 and to 52. I'm going to tell you that gap is going to be filled. The State Archives is working on that right now. So anytime I talk about these records, this is an ongoing process that they're adding on to the end, they're fixing in the middle, they're doing all sorts of things. So it's not static. So you're going to find more information as we go through there. So here's a 1901 death record in Alameda. That doesn't really help me. It just gives me a name, they died, they were married. That's not going to do it. But here we get into the death registers. And again, we get a lot of information. I'm reading this. It's the name of the father. It's the birthplace of the father, the name of the mother, the birthplace of the mother. And then we get over here and what they died of and where they're buried. So this is a really, starting in 1880, if you're fortunate enough to have somebody in there, you're going to do well with that. Okay. Copies of the online online copies of the state death records are in Ancestry. As I said, 1880 to 1904. So we can go through that. It's just a normal search screen for Ancestry, and you can come up with what you want to do. Birth records. Again, there's no provision in Iowa law to record births until that July 1st of 1880. And again, compliance was spotty until the World War I era. But there are delayed birth certificates, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, that can exist for births prior to July 1st of 1880. So we'll talk about that. The early birth records are kind of basic, and then after a while they start asking, multiple births legitimate, how many births has a mother had before that, how many children surviving, some medical information, right? So here's an 1821 census, pretty basic, got everything we need to have as we go through there, okay? Here's an 1842 one, got a lot more information on there. This happens to be my brother-in-law's. It bothers him that his birth certificate is now online, but he's over 75 years old, so it's on there. So we know all sorts, maybe a little more information than we want to know about the birth process as we go through there. So, so there's a 42 birth certificate, all right? The online copies, again, are on FamilySearch. Go into search records, select Iowa, and then you'll just see them in there. You can search by the parents' names, the child's name, all sorts of things. Ancestry has the same information on county records that that FamilySearch has. They're in Iowa U.S. Birth Christenings Index 1880 to 1999. Again, not particularly accurate dates as we go through there. Okay, so if I go in, I kind of look at Ancestry. Now these are the state copies. So Ancestry has the state copies of them. And that's the one I was talking about, 1880 to 1904. So those two that I showed you earlier, that's where I found them, was through Ancestry as we go through there. They also include the delayed birth series. Okay. Delayed birth. Sometimes people, most of you may know what a delayed birth is, but for some reason, it's a birth certificate that was issued after the normal period for recording a birth. Let's see, my husband's mother was one of 13. The number 10, his aunt, who's number 10, for some reason, she was born at home, the doctor didn't record her birth. She did not know this until the 1960s when she was joining the Peace Corps and she was going to get a birth certificate and she couldn't find one. So she had to go down to the county courthouse, all right? So she takes her mother down to the county courthouse and they create a birth record for her. So you provide some sort of proof to the county, they record the birth, all right? All pre-1941 delayed births, 540,000 of them have been scanned. They're online at FamilySearch and they are on at Ancestry.com. Sometimes you don't get to see the actual image because they might have a social security number on it, but you will get quite a bit of information. But nice thing is you have people that were born before 1880 that went in to get a birth certificate. So here is somebody, an 1860 birth, all right, who recorded it in 1943. And so we have father's name, mother's name, what he provided, an insurance agent, his old age pension tax record, a marriage record, a hospital record, that all gave the date as being October 30th, 1860. So sometimes I saw somebody that was 60 years old and brought his uncle down and the uncle gave an affidavit. So that's kind of the situation. If you've got delayed ones, you want to have those. Now, this is also another topic that people always want to talk about is adoption birth records. In Iowa, you sealed the original birth record and you created a new one with the adoptive parents' names. The records were closed until a major change in the law in 2021. Adoptees over the age of 18 can request a copy of their original birth certificate. Birth parents, biological parents, can ask that their names be redacted. However, I'm not too sure how they got the word out to these biological parents that they could do that. So there might be some tension as we go through there. Adoptive parents, grandparents, siblings, children, grandchildren can request the original birth certificate of a deceased adoptee. So if you are the child or the grandchild of somebody who's adopted, you can request a copy of their original birth certificate if they are deceased. So there is a form. It's very simple. You don't get any pushback. It's through the Iowa Department of Public Health. This website is on your handout. And I think the fee is $15. And they're very prompt about getting it back to you, which is very, very nice. Okay. I'm going to talk about now very quickly some unique military records. Okay. The GAR post records, the Veterans Bonus Files, and the Armed Forces Grave Registration. Now, the GAR, I think of that as the American Legion of Union Veterans, Grand Army of the Republic. And every state had GARs, but we are very fortunate. When you joined a post, you filled out an application and you have all sorts of information on it. Plate and dates of birth, death, cemetery where you're buried, your service details, sometimes family members' names as we go through there. All of these records have been digitized and put online by FamilySearch for the state of Iowa. Okay, so here's it's the Grand Army of the Republic membership records. You just put in your name and you'll get to see what you can get. And some of it is just unbelievable as we go through here. Now, this is James Laverty, somebody I did some research for. They telling me that he's also goes by a different name, James E. Lafferty. That's down at the bottom. They got his records, and it came as they go from there. Gives me his wife's name, his children's name. It tells me the informant with his son Fred Laverty in 1940, what he did for a living. He's a sergeant in Pennsylvania Infantry. He is buried in Woodland Cemetery, died in 1892. James had a tough life, I'm going to tell you that. Okay. Now, this is Alexander Jenner from post number 116 in Indianola. They give you a genealogy. This is the second page. The first page had your GAR information. This one's got a family history on it. Tells me where he's born in Germany, his parents' names, his father died of tapeworm. Oh dear. His mother died of sunstroke in Cincinnati, Ohio. And then we have all of his children's names or all of his siblings' names as we go through. Cause of death. Wouldn't you like to be a descendant of Alexander Jenner and find this in the Grand Army of the Republic records? Oh my, okay. The other thing that we have is the Iowa Veterans Bonus Files. Iowa paid bonuses to veterans who served in Iowa, World War I, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. Now, the World War I files, for some reason, are not online, but they are held by the state archives. You can contact them. The World War II bonus files are online at Ancestry. It's separated into two databases. One is the actual applicant and the other is beneficiaries. And then Korea and Vietnam files are closed for now because of privacy. The World War II applications, serial number, date of entry and discharge, what unit did you serve in, how many did you serve overseas, because you got more money if you served overseas. So here's, I just picked this fellow at random, Raymond Smith. I have all sorts of information of where he was. You have to have served from Iowa. You couldn't have served from another state, then came to Iowa after the war and get this. You have to have enlisted from the state of Iowa, but he was in 30 months and he got $10 a month. That's $300. And he served overseas for 18 months. So he got another $45. So in 1949, I think he got $345, which was a nice chunk of change in 1949. That could go a long way towards down payment on a new house if he could possibly do that. And then it tells me that he was in the 2774th Engineer Utility Detachment in Camp Dodge and kind of have gone through that. Wonderful. We also have the Armed Forces Graves Registration that is done by the Iowa Commission of Veteran Affairs. It's based on information. They ask a funeral home if the person is a veteran to send the information to the Iowa Commission. The full entries have all sorts of information. What we have online is basically an index to it, all right, under the Iowa Adjutant General's office. You can request a copy of the full record from the State Historical Society and the state archives. So this is what we get here. We have Richard Smith, born in 1844. I'm assuming he's a probable Civil War veteran. Tells me where he died. We have another one over here, born in 1877. I was thinking World War I, but I got nosy and I looked up and it turned out he's a Spanish-American veteran, war veteran, as you go through there. So this is kind of unique to Iowa, I think. I haven't run into any other ones that have this, okay? Newspapers online. We love free newspapers, especially for small towns. Now, the State Historical Society participates in the Library of Congress Chronicling America project. And then an awful lot of public libraries in Iowa have free online access to local papers, especially through Advantage Archives, which was formerly Advantage Preservation, which is based in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And they go out and the local people raise the money and they arrange to, if it's microfilm, just to have those scanned and digitized. If they're in paper form, then Advantage Archives comes in, actually scans them and puts them online. They have a directory, all the ones that Advantage Archives has done. Okay, I find it a little hard to work with. What I tend to use is a website called theancestorhunt.com, and then the rest of it is newspaper research links. If you go in there, you scroll down to Iowa, click on Iowa, and it gives you a list. And he brings this up to date. Just, I don't know how he does it, but he keeps it up to date, of all of the free online newspapers that you're going to find. So the first entries are always Chronicling America, which that's not the easiest website to use, but we can do it. Then it's Google News Archive, which I am not particularly enamored with. And then next comes all the newspapers by county. So if you have somebody from Appanoose County, look what you can get. The Appanoose County Historical Society website has these records. It's amazing. And so you can go in and you do not have to select a specific newspaper. They will search all of the newspapers that are on that website. So you can see what you can find. I was kind of working my way through Carroll County, my husband's. They have foreign ones. So I put in Klingsize and this is what I found. I don't read German, but occasionally they have some English articles as we go through there. So it's just, I can tell you that almost every county has their online records, not all of them, but online newspapers. The bigger ones, you know, the big cities ones, no, but the smaller ones, yes, you're going to find those as we go through there. I'm going to do a little publicity here for the iowagenweb.org. I don't know if you use the Gen websites. You should. This is the one for Iowa. On each one of these, every state has one, and then there's a website for every county. The Iowa Gen Web it's always ranked as one of the best within the Gen Web community. Some of them have amazing collections. Madison County, I just can't get over what they've done. And yes, that is Madison County with the bridges as we go through there. When you get into the main Gen Web, go up to special projects. If you want to look at that, they have some really nice things. They have the WPA graves registration. Only genealogists say thank God for the for depression. During the depression, they sent people out to inventory grave sites and put some information together. And sometimes some of those graves have not gravestones have not survived very well. So you may not find them on Find a Grave, but you will probably find them in the WPA graves registration. And again, I also told you that this is where you can find that the templates for those state census records. So and for every county, they will generally have an access to, they'll show you the local historical society contact or the local genealogy society. And we have some very, very active local genealogy societies that I just, I think it was Everett Dirksen once said all politics is local. Well, all genealogy is local, and your local people know where the bodies are buried, literally and figuratively. And so we always like to send people to those local county societies if they exist to see what they can do. Okay. And then I'm going to end up, like I said, with a blatant commercial. This is the Iowa Genealogical Society. This is our library. That entire building is ours with a little bit of a mortgage to go with us. We are open 6 days a week. So if you're going to do some research in Iowa, come see us. We are right across the street from the State Historical Museum and Library. So you will see sometimes like a little line of people going back and forth, jaywalking. God forbid we go up to the country corner and use the lights. And we just go back and forth between the State Historical Library and our library. We have some really great people there that will help you. We have a pretty comprehensive, it's not just Iowa, we have a lot of other stuff. We have obviously internet access, we have Ancestry, we have special interest groups that I mentioned that meet monthly online via Zoom. We have Irish, German, Norwegian, African American. We have software programs. So if you use FamilySearch, Roots Magic, or Legacy, or Family Tree Maker, Legacy, there. If you like to use Ancestry, we have a DNA interest group. We have a publishing and printing special interest group, and these are all available to members if you want to come through there. And we do classes online. We have our conference coming up in October. So if you've ever followed the Dyer mother and daughter that do researching like a pro, the mother's going to be one of our speakers all day on Saturday. Again, we'll do this virtually, so you can come see us. We'd love to have you stop by. If you've got an Iowa family, just, we're the place to come and see what we can do. And now I'm going to take a deep breath, and I am done. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to turn on my video, and I'm here. Okay.
Well, everybody, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I hope to see you on Tuesday for another Genealogy Center program. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, everybody.
Bye.